Oh, there's actually people. Oh, here's my video. Great. Hi, welcome. I don't know if you guys can hear me okay. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Angelo. Hi, Ali, Hassan, and everyone else. We didn't really advertise this session very much. So I'm actually surprised we have people on, on this session. So that's nice because we only just put a post up this morning. So just hold on a second. I'm going to stream this live now on Facebook because we're streaming experts now. No, we're not. We barely know what we're doing. But let me just get this on here. Share on a page. Share on my career. So I'm just clicking a couple clicks here as we go live. If anyone has any questions, that would really help me. Otherwise, what's going to happen is I'm going to end up doing a monologue, which you may or may not enjoy. So please feel free to chat. Angelo can also grab your pieces. Okay, here we are. We're about to go live. And I've been trying to get a better background, but the interior designers don't call me back and the graphic designers don't call me back. So what can you do? It's this digital age that we live in, and it's like, fill out the contact form and we will send you an automated email, and then someone may or may not contact you. But it's like you can't get human contact with anyone anymore, not just in your job search, but I think it's the whole world is like that. So that's why in our company in ownmycareer.com, we put my email, my mobile number is right there. So if you go on to ownmycareer.com and connect on the WhatsApp group, that actually, I think I can actually show you the website, right? If I do that right now. So
yeah,
just,
we already have a question, by the way.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, how do I close this? Okay, maybe I'm not ready to show the website because maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Let me just answer the question. Okay, we're actually live. So first of all, welcome to OMC Live. We didn't really know what to call it because this is like our fourth session. And originally we had some other names, but the name of our company is ownmycareer.com. So, or the name of the website is ownmycareer.com. So we're just going to call the session OMC Live. The purpose of this session is to help people move their career forward. So you may have a job, you want a better job. You may have a job, you don't want to switch jobs, you just want to get a raise, you want to make more money. That is a good reason to come to this session. And some people are in transition. They're looking for their dream job or they want to be successful in their job search. This is also going to help you, because when you look at career strategies that move you into the top 1% of income brackets, people who are in the top 1% of income brackets don't look for jobs, because by definition, if you're in the top 1%, you would have a job. And the reason why you have a job is because you're using strategies that are used by the top 1%. Whether that's naturally, unconsciously, or consciously, unnaturally. Either way, when you use these strategies, you become, more highly paid than the average person, and you will not be looking for work. I had to overcome, I had to discover these techniques over many, many years. Hi, Sophia. Thanks for joining us. Great to see you. And so we're going that's the purpose of this session. It's going to be every Monday and Wednesday at 12 p.m. We're going to stream it live. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask me if you want to talk, because it is interactive. Just raise your hand. I will mute you until you raise your hand, then I'll unmute you. So just if you don't know how to raise your hand, you can also just send a message in the chat box and I can unmute you and we can chat. So what's the current assessment for consultant demand? So who's this? Elevate 45. Did you want to ask me the question? I can unmute you and we can make it. You have to unmute yourself as well, unless you're, in an area where you can't talk. Did Elevate 45 want to talk? Did you want to potentially say anything? Is Elevate 45 still here? Oh yeah, they are. Hi, can we hear you? We can't actually hear you. The question is about, he's having a mic issue. Okay, no problem. Or she, I don't know if it's a he or she or anything in between. Everyone is welcome. So the consulting question is, it's a great, in the Middle East, I don't know, it depends which market you're in. So I can only talk about the GCC market, which I'm very familiar with. Which is a tremendous consulting market, because whenever you have aggressive affirmative action programs where saying, look, we need to hire based on a certain race or a certain, whatever your criteria is, which is not skill set, it creates a skill set gap. And you start to see younger people being pushed into senior leadership roles, which requires training, development, consulting, setting up of systems, setting up of best practices, as well. In emerging and fringe economies, you're in a stage of development, so you need to institutionalize process and systems. So consultants are in huge demand. What I think is part of the problem is people don't make human contact anymore. So even in our company, where we're trying to hire consultants, it becomes very difficult to have a face-to-face meeting. So you talk to people and you say, hey, come down to our office. And they literally say, well, send me your requirement by email. And so, I think if there is a huge consulting demand, I think you need to be a little pushy and you need to get in front of people. And the one thing, if you're trying to sell a consulting service, or win consulting projects, think of it as if the person, don't operate from your head, operate from your heart, and really feel that, that person has a cancer and you have the cure. And if you do not go and meet them, you're doing a disservice to them and to their team. So for us, for example, if we know that somebody needs a new CEO, I don't go there because I want the CEO mandate or I want the project. I go there because I know that when the CEO fails, who gets fired? The chaiwala gets fired. The frontline staff gets fired. When you look at a retail business that collapses, you have 80-90% of the staff are tellers, stock boys, warehouse people. These are people who are living hand to mouth. And, when you look at some of our other projects, we placed the CEO of Enerflex, which is an oil and gas engineering company. And over the span of 5 years, they created 450 jobs. If the average family has 4 people in it, that's about 1,200 people who got, food on their table because that company had the right CEO. So for us, it's about the community. It's about our society. It's about helping people and making sure that we have a stable, strong economy. And I think that's where you need to come from, is that, when you look at your job and the value that it provides, this is the shift, and this is when I talk about think like a business owner, act like an investor, and start to look at your profession as providing a huge value and get away from kind of acting like, hey, can you give me a job? And, and that's why I'm against the CV, because this whole process puts you in a process, it takes away your power because and puts you in a transaction because you are acting transactionally. You are thinking transactionally versus thinking about creating value, giving value. As they say, one of my mentors used to always say to me, the best things in life you have to give away to get. And if you want knowledge, the odd thing is you actually have to give away knowledge. So I run a program on how to negotiate your salary. And I was buying some exercise equipment because obviously with COVID, and my wife is like, oh, you can't go to the gym, you're putting us at risk. So I'm like, okay, I have to buy some. So this is a personal story, but just to tell you that, I was going to go buy this exercise equipment. I said, oh, well, I'm running this salary negotiation course. I have to use my own techniques, or what, what's the purpose? It doesn't make any sense. So I used 3 of the techniques. And I told my wife's eating breakfast and she's like, I'm going to the store. She's like, okay, go get stuff. I'm like, no. Round 1, never accept the first offer. always use a 24-hour window of negotiation. If I want you to do something, I need to put some pressure in. So for example, in your offer, if I want a profit share or I want a sign-on bonus, you don't want to give it to me. I need to create some level of uncomfortability for you, some pressure for you to give me stuff you don't want to give me. Because if I don't create any pressure, you're never going to give me the stuff that I don't want. So what's a nice pressure point in your salary negotiation that you can use, which without running risk of blowing the deal, is I believe you have two 24-hour counter offer. Who is the culprit there? I think Elevate fixed their mic issue. But so when you get the offer, you give a counter offer and you don't accept right away. You let that first 24-hour period kind of float. Let the employer feel like, oh, we might lose the candidate. Let's sweeten the deal a little bit not to lose them, versus if you just accept. So I went to the gym place, asked for the equipment with the notion that I'm walking away. I went in the store knowing that I'm walking. And I said, Bubble, this is what I want. Oh no, your price is too much. I left. What happened? Next day, sales guy calls me, 20% discount on everything. Now, if I wasn't practicing what I preached, I could have still bought the equipment. Obviously, it's not like, it's not a huge purchase or whatever. I could have paid X plus 20%, but I got X minus 20% or, whatever it was. So the long story of this thing is that you have to give it away to get it. The fact that I tried to teach everything I know about salary negotiation, it's now made me a much better negotiator. The fact that I try to teach you everything that I know about career management makes me much more effective in managing my career. And you're the same way. So when you walk to the interview, say you're a logistics executive. Now, here's the difference. Do you walk as that logistics executive saying, hey, I want a job. Can you give me a job? Now what happens is the power shifts. And now I'm doing you a favor. Be like, yeah, well, we might be able to give you a job, but it's a really tough market. So you're going to have to take a haircut, and we're going to have to cut your benefits, and we're going to have to end your probation, because I'm doing you a favor. And you're like, oh yeah, thanks for the job. I'm getting this great opportunity. No, you're providing value. So move away from give me the job. And now I have another banker, for example, or say, let's stick with the logistics example. This guy or this lady has so many strategies about how you can improve your freight costs. So for example, you say, look, using AI, using machine learning, here's 3 strategies where I think you can actually reduce your average shipping cost per kg by 15%, which is huge. What do you think are the biggest drivers that are going to drive improvements in our industry? So now I'm coming to the meeting to say, hey, I'm meeting another professional in logistics. I want to share some of my knowledge and see if they agree or disagree with my concept, my theories, or my strategies. So now I'm really more interested in the meeting. I'm more interested in sharing information. I'm more interested in understanding what's their logistics strategy. Hey, I'm interviewing for logistics jobs. I imagine the director of logistics will be there, or the CEO of the logistics company will be there. And they must have I want to know, what's your view? Where's the industry going? What are the 3 biggest disruptive technologies for logistics? So now I shift from give me a job to I'm so excited to meet you. I'm so excited to share information about the business, about the industry. And I'm so interested to get your thoughts on whether you think my strategies would work. If they wouldn't work, what are the holes? What are the gaps? What should I be looking for? Where should the industry be going? And then you get this kind of energized, rather than being fearful in the transactional environment. I'm fearful. I'm anxious. I really hope someone can do me a favor and give me a handout. In the other one, I'm excited. I'm really loving what I'm doing. I'm intellectually curious. I'm energized. I see change as opportunity. So these are kind of the shifts. So I warned you, if you don't ask me questions, I'm going to go off. One of the things that really hits me right in the heart is like, it just kills me, which happens all the time. And so if you're one of my, if you were interviewing for a job with me, this is not directed at you, because this is such a common issue. And what happens is, a lot of times I'm working on very kind of high profile jobs. And so what happens is people who are really smart apply for these jobs. And, you know, smart is like a very kind of loose word. What does that mean? So what I just mean by that is like, hey, this person went to Harvard, or this person went to Wharton, or this person went to Stanford, or, you know, one of these fancy schools where, you know, they had a 720 GMAT, you know, they were like top student in their high school. They were valedictorian. They were, you know, they're just like, you know, you're just reading their CVs and you're like, wow. I literally said to one of the candidates, I said, I really wish I was as smart as you are. Really not. But you know what happened? Their career is totally messed up because they asked themselves the wrong question. And what do I mean by messed up? It means here's your earning potential. This is where you are. Now, almost like 90% of people will have a gap between what your potential earning is and what your actual earning is. Very few people, although some of them are, we know them, they're earning way beyond their potential. We've all met people like that, but most of us are like this. Now, what happens is if you're really smart and you graduate from Harvard, and then the guys, and it's like, oh, I got a job in private equity at the Carlyle Group. And it's like, oh, wow, that's great. Then 2 years later, Goldman Sachs offered me a job in investment banking. So I took that because it's an amazing. You're like, wow, of course, you're 24 years old. You get an offer from Goldman Sachs to work in Manhattan. That sounds amazing. Then, you know, then I worked at McKinsey and Partners because I got an offer there. You're like, well, these are all great jobs. What did you just do? You just killed your career because now you have 3 years private equity, 3 years investment banking, 3 years strategy consulting. Who are you? Where is your real value? All of a sudden you fast forward to 40, 45, or 50, and all of a sudden you have this grab bag of experience and it's not focused. And you take another candidate who guy is really, okay, he's obviously smart or she's obviously smart, but didn't get those same opportunities. Didn't get to go to Harvard, didn't get to go to Cambridge, didn't get to work at Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is like, oh, if you're not from this, you know, societal class, if you're not from this schools, we don't touch you. So he's like, oh, I wanted to be in private equity. I couldn't get a job. So I started buying and selling companies. And he worked his way up until now he's one of, you know, by the time he's 50, he's done so many deals and he's worked for tier 3 banks that all of a sudden now he's managing, you know, a $600 million private equity fund and he's worth a couple $1 million. Now his earning potential far outperformed the smarter, more intelligent candidate who had a grab bag of different amazing experiences, this well-rounded, like, oh, you've done so many cool things. That's great. You worked in so many countries, you worked in so many industries, great. But now at 50, 55, you're not qualified to be the CEO of an investment bank or a PE firm or any of these firms because you don't have that the experience of the strategic cycle. So you haven't stuck around. So generally a strategic cycle takes, say, 5 years. And, you know, 2 cycles is 10 years. So someone who switched jobs every 3 years, they haven't managed the full cycle. So when they get into 50, 55, they can't get the heavyweight CEO jobs where you take my other candidate who went to a tier 3 school no one's heard of. He's worked his way up. All of a sudden, he's had massive exits. He's had huge successes. He created, I don't know if I want to mention, he created one of the landmark funds, like a fund that nobody else thought of. And he's like a legend now. And so he's just systematically developed his capabilities. And now he's earning, you know, he earns over $1 million a year. He's well off. And I don't know exactly, but, you know, he's somewhere between $1 to $10 million a year is what he's earning. So, and that's from really focus. So what's the moral of the story? The moral of the story, and what, to get to the beginning of what really stabs me in the heart, is you're talking to these people and they tell you what they can do. What you can do is the wrong question to answer. You never want to ask, because it's such a silly question. You know, when someone says, hey, Shane, you know, I'm like, so what do you want to do? You know, who do you want to become? And they say, well, look, I could be, and the second they say, I could do, or I could be, you know, you've got problems. You know, this is not going to be a success story. This is not going to help you self-actualize, because I can paint your house, but you're never going to hire me to paint your house because I don't have, you know, there's nobody on this call could say, no, actually Shane does not have the capability to paint my house, you know, the inside, not the outside, you know, paint the rooms in your house. But none of you would hire me to paint the house because you want someone who's painted 500 houses and they have this and they have that. So you want someone with experience. So it's the same thing. It's like, it doesn't matter what can you do. It's who do you want to become? This is what they don't teach you, because when you're in school, they teach you to get a job, you know, like right away. If you're an average student in grade 5 and grade 6 and grade 7, grade 8, this is where the dialogue starts. They say, well, you should be a fire, you know, the correct term is firefighter. But back in my day, they were sexist and they said fireman, which is very sexist. You realize how sexist our language is. Or they say policeman, which is also very sexist, should be police person. Or astronaut, you know, what are these? These are blue collar jobs. These are not leadership roles. They never told you in grade 5 or at my school, they never said, you know what, you're going to be a great leader. You should be a chief executive officer. You should be prime minister. You should really, you know, you have great leadership capabilities. You have great value creation capabilities. No, they're pushing you into blue collar working jobs. Now, if you're really smart, the counselor says what? You can have a career. You should be a doctor. You should be an accountant. Again, what are they training you to be? You're still an employee. You're a white collar labor force. That's what they're teaching you to be. They never tell you you have great value for you. What's your life's work going to be? What is your contribution to this world going to be? And that's where, you know, Einstein, Steve Jobs, all of these guys who create huge value, Elon Musk, is like, what is my life's work? What is my contribution? Who do I want to become? They start capping you out, telling like, oh, no, you can't become whoever you want. You have to become one of XYZ things. And usually they're snowballing you into a blue collar or into a labor position. So this is the fundamental problem that happens when you're super smart. You become, as the quote says, a victim of your own success, and you start becoming opportunistic because opportunities are coming to you. And as you capitalize on opportunities, you rob yourself of your intrinsic value. So all of a sudden, a frog gets a job swimming. Well, a frog can never outswim a fish. And maybe you're a frog, you should be in a jumping contest, not in a swimming contest. And so by asking yourself, who do you want to become versus what can I do? This is one of the fundamental shifts to unlocking that inner power in you, that inner, you know, what is that inner energy that becomes, this unstoppable force that's inside of you. Because as I was telling on another session, the story of the guy who started his chocolate company making chocolates, and he went bankrupt. And then his friend said, well, what are you going to do now? You just spent 2 years selling chocolates and you were pretty bad. You went out of business. He said, well, I'm going to start my own business. He said, well, what are you going to do now? He said, I'm going to sell chocolates. He did. He went bankrupt. His friend said, what are you going to do now? He said, well, I'm going to start my own business. He said, well, what are you going to sell? He said, I'm going to sell chocolates. He said, are you nuts? You just went bankrupt twice selling chocolates. He said, no, I think I'm going to do great this time. He went bankrupt third time. His friend said, what are you going to do now? He said, I'm going to start my own business. He said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to sell chocolates. He said, you need to see a psychiatrist. You just went bankrupt 3 times. And he said, no, I'm made to sell chocolate. This is my thing. And the 4th time he finds his profitability. And anybody know who that story is of? The guy's name is Frank. His last name is Mars. The 4th time he invented the Mars bar. The Mars bar was one of the best-selling chocolate bars in the history of civilization. And even without advertisement, he was selling like $20 million back in the day. So, you know, like that's like, I don't know, I'm not an economist, but it's like a lot of like, it's like, I don't know, however much, it's like over $100 million in today's money. But the point of the story is that when you're a frog in a jumping contest, you don't quit. And a lot of people, when you're opportunistic, you get into the first second that you're getting pressure because you're opportunistic and you're only in it for the opportunity. As soon as the opportunity escapes, your drive, your motivation, your push is gone. So you never are able to push yourself to peak performance. And that's where your true contentment, that's when you really start to feel alive, is when you have that push to drive over that piece. And so what happened with Frank Mars is like, he was able to self-actualize because he was doing what he loved to do. And we go back to the story of Frank Mars. He had polio. He was partially paralyzed. He was stuck in the kitchen and he had to watch his grandmother make chocolates while he was a child. And it was like really part of who he was. And so it's about being who you are. That's how you create value, you know. And a lot of people go after a job and you just immediately rob yourself of a life that's so beautiful. You're blossoming. You know, you don't see a dandelion get planted in the middle of a rose garden and all of a sudden a dandelion gets intimidated and it's like, well, I shouldn't be a dandelion. I should try to be like these roses and I should try to be red like the rose. No, the dandelion just stands up. It's like, I'm a dandelion. Check out how, you know, look at my flowers. I'm this beautiful yellow. You guys are red, whatever. What's up with the roses? You're all thorny. I'm nice and warm and sunny and yellow and I have no thorns. I'm much better. I'm going to be the best dandelion I can be. But we don't do that. You see people, they become head of audit, they become accountants, they become lawyers, they become all these things because society pushes you into doing it. There's all these pressures on you and you end up forgetting your dreams. I start an interview and a lot of times senior people get really pissed off. This is a true story. Everything I'm saying is true. I'm just telling you the truth. I interview senior people and a lot of times it starts with a fist fight, like not in a figurative fist fight, not, I mean, there has been maybe one or two physical altercations, but most of them are figurative. I had one pushing match once. It wasn't that bad, but they get really pissed off because I say, hey, what was grade school like? And they say, Shane, what does this have to do with everything? I said, it has to do with everything. Because when you're a child, you play to your strengths naturally. If you're an extrovert, you automatically are like, hey, running to your friend's house, knocking on the window at 6 in the morning. Hey, do you want to come out and play? You're running up to other kids. If you're an introvert, you're automatically being reclusive. You're automatically reading or are participating in independent activities that you can do on your own. And so you start to look at what were you doing as a child? What were you doing in high school? Then I asked them, what was your dream as a kid? They're like, you know, and you're talking about a CEO who's making $4 million a year, who's, you know, 56 years old, and you're trying to talk to him about something that happened 50, 40 years ago. He gets really upset. And some of them get really upset. Some of them, most of them, 80% of the people, they enjoy the discussion. And, you know, it's like, hey, let's talk about your childhood. Fine. But why am I doing that? Because I want to know what's your dream? What was your vision? And part of it is, do you realize a vision? Do you set a vision for yourself? Do you achieve it? This is part of a CEO's job, by the way. This is really, so what I'm actually also doing is looking at what's the core capability for the job? How early do we see you display that capability or skill? And how often have you successfully executed that capability or skill? So going back and all of a sudden you start to see, like when I interviewed the global CEO of one of the top 3 strategy consulting firms, and he was like, in grade 10, I knew I was going to be a strategy consultant. My dad was a strategy consultant. And then I knew that I was going to get an undergrad in engineering and I was going to get my MBA from XYZ school. And I was going to be a specialist at, and I was going to work at this particular firm. And so it's like, he really had a clear vision. Not everybody has that, but he didn't quit on it and he pushed through. I've also, so that is really one of the big shifts, is asking yourself, who do I want to be? And what do you want, you know, what do you want to become over the next 10 years? Do you really want that? Or are you going to, and this is an internal piece, because your power, your energy, it's very logical when you think about it. Your energy is internal. It's inside you. External is only partially motivated. So for example, I want to lose weight. Obviously, I'm overweight. We can all get over that fact. I want to lose weight, but the motivation is external because I want to look good or whatever it is. So it's not that strong. Now take another scenario. If all of a sudden I wake up tomorrow and I become a vegan, if I become a vegan, 99% chance I'll lose 10 kgs in like 6 months because I'm not eating all those animal products. I'm not eating all that cheese. All this stuff goes out the window. You end up getting healthier. What changed my belief system? My inside changed, then my outside changed. So so this is how it needs to work. A lot of people get pissed off because they don't want to talk about these esoteric, lofty pieces. They're like, Shane, how do I get a job in 72 hours? Well, we talked about that on the other session. And I warned you guys, if you don't ask me a question, I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. So let's see if there's another question here. The current climate can be quite competitive alongside tricky, particularly toward entrepreneurs. Any advice on what type of tools and methods to use that are secure? I don't know what he means by elevate. Did you fix your, did he fix his mic or she fix her mic?
Elevate is a he in project management consulting in early 40s.
Oh, did he tell you that? Oh yeah, okay. Okay, fine. No, his mic is still not working, I guess. I don't know what they mean by, you know, like this is a very broad-based question, but I think number one is understanding, okay, whether you're an entrepreneur, I think, okay, I'll answer this question relating it to everyone. So first of all, you could be an entrepreneur. So you're selling coffee cups, or you could be an employee, which means you're selling yourself. Either way, you're an entrepreneur. You have to own your career. That's why I called the site ownmycareer.com. You have to own it like an entrepreneur owns their own business. So the number one thing, whether you're selling coffee cups or your skill set, you have to identify who is my target customer. What is the customer value proposition? So why would the customer buy my coffee cup, my executive coaching, your skill set? So if you're a CFO, for example, you know right now that the value proposition is that companies need to cut costs. They need to rationalize. They need to right size. They need to, you know, et cetera, automate, digitize. And so when you look at what are the top 3 things that I can actually do for a company that affects the bottom line, then look at who does that really fit. So for my company, I know that because we're a smaller firm, we have to target local businesses where the chairman and the CEO are based in the city that we operate. So most of it is in, so for example, in Dubai, if we're going to work with a bank, we most likely will not work with HSBC because HSBC has their headquarters in London and they're going to have a global frame agreement with a British, probably another British search firm that services them all over the world. So we would work with, you know, a local bank where the chairman and the CEO are there. So right away, I don't waste my time going. And this is a good point for all the job searchers out there. Don't waste your time. I don't go. If HSBC calls me for a pitch, I just don't go. I don't waste my time. I go to pitches where I know the chairman and CEO are there and somebody really needs bottom line results. And they say, look, we're going to use Shane because we need profitability. Boom. And they pick, and that's how we get picked. Number 2, you understand what are the risks. Why would someone not buy? And you overcome those objections. So, and this goes back to the who. So a lot of candidates are disqualified. I'm holding my head because it just boggles my mind when you're interviewing somebody. So we're interviewing a guy for a GM sales, true story. And the chairman, same story like I just said, local chairman and CEO are here. And this is for one of the MENA countries. And this company operates in 12 countries. Most of them are GCC based, but it's the whole MENA region, North Africa, Levant, Middle East. And the chairman likes me. He wants to hire me. And he wants me to take care of one of the countries which is underperforming. So they need a GM of sales. Now, another board member is in charge of that country and he does not like me. He does not want me there. So the chairman says, Shane's going to fix this for you. And the other board member says, no, I already have the candidates. We don't need Shane. Thank you very much. Take a long walk off a short pier. Goodbye. All right. And I'm like, wow, I don't really want to get involved in this. And the chairman says, Shane will interview your candidates and he's going to provide an assessment for you on them. And I'm like, oh, great. This is like, you know, too much stress. Like this is, I don't need this, but fine. Now I'm into this. So I interview the candidates. The first candidate, simple question. Who are you? Who do you want to become? That's the strategy, but what does it come out as in the question? The question is, where will you be in 5 years from now? The first candidate says, I'm going to be in Toronto running a restaurant with my son. I'm like, why would you say that to me? I'm the consultant. I have to write this report. I don't want to write a bad report. The best thing for me was just to approve the candidates that this board member wanted, give him my report, and get back on the plane, go back to my house, get my peasy little invoice paid for the assessments, and move on. And because you don't want bad blood with a board member, because the board member is going to show up in other companies, and you really don't want that. It does not help me at all. So I'm like, God, Jesus, why would you say that? It's just, it's a no-brainer. You're 16 years old, you go for Domino's Pizza, to be the pizza delivery guy, and he asks you, where do you want to be in 5 years? And you say, I would love to be the manager of Domino's. Like, teenagers know the answer. So why do senior people not get this? So a second he says that, he's disqualified. And same thing goes on. So who are you going to become? Why? So you create a retention issue. You immediately create a retention issue when you don't identify with the profession. When I interview the CEO of a media company, on the flip side, I'll say, well, why is this media important? Like, why is this job important to you? And the guy turns to me and he says, this is a true story. He says, Shane, I've lost 18 reporters over the last 10 years giving the news to the Arabic world. They've died on the front lines along soldiers because what we do is so important to bring the Arabic perspective to these conflict zones. It's something that's worth dying to. Media is the fourth estate of society. And you can't have a healthy society without having a healthy media arm. And it's like, wow, now you can feel this guy. He's not going to quit. He has a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, a sense of direction, a sense of who he's becoming. So, and that's what you need, and that's where, forget about the job. When you have that, you become unstoppable. You start to get superhuman results. You get superhuman performance, because superhuman performance is based on value. So what is courage? What is if you ask yourself, what is courage? I'm Canadian. We had a lady, this is a true story. I always keep saying that because I just feel like some of these stories are so unbelievable, but they're true. And I do find it unbelievable that you would be in an interview and then tell someone that your long-term plan is not to be in the job that you're applying for. That's unbelievable. But anyway, we're past that. Now, here's a lady. She weighs, I believe she weighed about 112 pounds. A little, small lady. She got in a fight with a polar bear. A polar bear. Hand-to-hand combat with a polar bear, and she punched it in the face. She scratched at its eyes. She threw herself at the bear with everything she had. Now, there's not a single person, I would assume, on this call who would fight a polar bear. Mostly, if you see a polar bear, you're going to run the other way. So now we ask ourselves a question. Now, this is superhuman performance. This is how you want to be in life, in your job, in everything you do. It would be nice to have that much courage. What is courage? Where does courage come from? Courage is not something that anybody has. Courage happens when your values overcome your actions. So for example, why did she attack the bear? Because the bear was going to eat her 2-year-old son. And she fought to the death to save her son. They was going to kill their child. So that value for her child's life is greater than her own. So when you try to kill a mother's child, the mother will fight to the death. The mother will lift up. There's been cases where mothers lifted a car, say superhuman strength. How do you get that superhuman strength? Because you value what you're doing so much. So what happens in the Watergate files when they threatened to close down the New York Times? The guys value the media so much that it's like, you're going to need to kill me before you shut down this paper. They're like, we're going to put you under tax. We're going to put you under tax investigation. We're going to do everything we can. We're going to shut down your paper. And then the person says, you're going to have to do more than shut down my paper if you want to stop me. You're going to have to kill me. And if you shoot me, I will rise from my grave and I will complete this project. That's where value plays. So when I say have value for your profession, this is the unlock. This is the key to unlocking your power. And when you ask yourself, that's why when I said at the beginning, it stabs me in the heart. When you watch someone with so much talent relegate themselves to the lowest common denominator and say, what can I do? Let me tell you what I can do. Oh my God, I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself because there's such a waste of value, such a waste of power. You're losing your power. It's about power. You're losing your power. You're losing your power. And people don't want to tell you that your career management is about power. Your power is inside you. You have to let it out. But people ignore the power inside you, and we keep trying to be transactional and trying to see what we can get. What can I get from the market? What can I get? What will the market give me? What are the opportunities? What's the market like, Shane? Tell me what the job market is. What can I take? What can I take out? And what are you going to get? You're like a discount shopper. You're not going to get anything good. It's what can you give? And watch the dynamic change. When you see this guy who says, the guy who says to me, the media giving the Arabic perspective of the news is so important for the world. What that guy's going to do is he's going to make a contribution to the media industry. He's going to make a contribution to Arabic perspective. He's going to make a contribution to the Arab world. He's going to make a contribution. And what happens? Then you can reap the harvest. The farmer doesn't wake up and run around in the woods going, I wonder what plants I can harvest. I wonder what I could harvest here. Are there any good trees to harvest? No, he plants the seed. He gives to the field. He plows, he waters, he fertilizes. He sits there and works for the plant. He gives the plant life. In return, at the end of the season, the plant gives him his fruit or her fruit. Do you see how it totally flips? And so you have to ask yourself, how do you get the courage to fight a polar bear? And all of a sudden, you find people who are trying to get jobs that they don't care about, that they don't value, that they would never fight for, that they would quit the first second that they can. And who are they cheating? The only person that's getting cheated is themselves, because you're going through life with nothing to fight for, nothing to live for, nothing to die for, nothing to go all out for. What kind of life is that? What kind of value is that? And that's why when you go to 90% of these interviews, it's like going to a funeral. It's like going to a funeral. I swear to God, if you people were with me and we were running interviews all day, 90% of the interviews, the guy's like, yes, I've been working for 20 years in finance and I've worked. I'm sorry, like I can't hear you. What are you? So you're totally not excited about what you could do. And the other fact, these are facts. These are facts. You pick almost any company. If I approach those people for another job, without them even knowing the salary, 80% of the people send me their CV within 48 hours. That's how disengaged you are. Now, when you go back in history, you go to Alexander the Great, when he fought Darius and they invaded Persia and they were outnumbered 10-1. True story. Outnumbered 10-1. I wasn't there, but apparently this is what was written in the history books anyway. And he burns the boats. That's how, if anyone doesn't know the story, he lands on the shores. He realizes that, this is not going to go well because he's outnumbered 10-1. And if anybody here has fought 10 people at once, you probably would feel like you probably lose that battle. So, and it's not just 10-1. I mean, the Persians had chariots and obviously they had way more equipment because you arrived by boat and they're living there. So they obviously have technology advancement. They have technology advantage as well. So he tells everybody to get on the hill and he's like, tells his assistant, when I'm talking to the guys, I want you to set the boats on fire. and he burns the boats, and he tells the crew, he says, if you guys ever want to get home and see your wives and kids again, you have to conquer or perish. You're going to sail home on Persian boats. You're not sailing back on Greek boats. And the boats were burned. So he had 100% commitment. And of course, this, as we know the story, he won. So as a business, as a leader, the CEO is also failing because the CEO is not smart enough, pretty stupid, not to ask your team, hey, do you want to be here? Are you comfortable? How is it going? Have you ever had a leader sit down and say, hey, are you happy? Are you, what's your vision? Where do you want to be in 5 years from now? They don't ask that, and so you are also robbing yourself of the opportunity of doing something great, because without that commitment, without that drive, it'd be very rare that you're going to have greatness or superhuman performance or outperform. When you sit down and you look at, you're running a basketball team and you have Michael Jordan, you don't have to sit there and explain to Michael Jordan that you want to win the championship. Michael Jordan shows up to the court. He already wants to win the championship. He's committed. When you look at Ronaldo or Messi or whatever, these guys, they live and die for football. They're there to win the World Cup. You have people and you show up in the boardroom and 80% of your team is 1 foot out the door because, I'm sorry, you send me your CV within 48 hours or like within 2 days. Most of them send it within 24 hours. That means your CV, you're ready to leave. So how can you win a fight with 80% of your team is ready to quit within 48 hours? How can you win anything? Not just the company, but you as an executive. How can you be part? That's not a championship team. That's not a life. That's not. So I would say make the shift now. Ask yourself, who do I want to be? And start working towards that and become unstoppable. Become unquittable. You can't quit. I went and did my MBA. I did my MBA. And at the end of my MBA, you had to do a business plan. Makes sense. It's an MBA. You have to make a business plan. And I was so embarrassed because when you apply all the tools that they give you in the MBA, like the Porter's 5 Forces and the value chain analysis and all this stuff that they give you, you analyze a market and you realize that the executive search market is the worst market to be in because all the tools tell you that. Obviously, it's a challenging market. But I had no other choice because, it's a family business. What am I going to do? I'm not Frank Mars. I'm not going to go start a chocolate factory. This is who I am. I can't quit. I was thinking that this morning. It's like, it's not fun, everything that's going on in the world right now. We have COVID. You can't meet with people. You have so many unpleasantries. And I'm shaving and I'm like, well, what option do I have? I can't quit. There's nothing else that I can do. I don't have any other choice. I got to keep going here. It's just wake up and I'm being me. I'm doing this for free. So I don't have the choice. I don't have the luxury of quitting. I'm going to keep going. It's like a lion can't wake up and be like, oh, well, I'm not as fast as the other lions. I'm not as strong as the other lions. My mane isn't as fluffy as the other lions. I guess I'll go kill myself. Yeah, that's what humans do. Like people actually lose their job. They actually commit suicide. It's like, they talk themselves out of being a lion. No, he wakes up. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm not the fastest. I'm not the biggest. I don't have the best mane, but I'm going to kill that wildebeest. I'm going to eat that zebra, boom. And he just goes all in. And how fast does he run? He runs as fast as he can. How fast does he jump? Well, actually, that's a lie because you can see how sexist that is. The lion actually doesn't even kill the wildebeest. It's the lioness who does the killing. So I guess he just encourages the lioness. I don't know what he would do actually. So that example, that's pretty sexist. You see how it's ingrained. It's not my fault. I'm a product of the society. It's not my fault. At least I'm smart enough to realize that's being sexist. I apologize. But so the lioness wakes up and she jumps as fast as she can. She runs as fast as she can and she kills the wildebeest. So as humans, we're not running as fast as we want. We're the only species that would will ourselves to death, that would think ourselves into failure, that would think ourselves into suicide and take a job that we don't want, doing something that we don't like, for something we don't believe in, that has no purpose to us, that has no meaning to us, that de-energizes us, that depresses us, that does everything to us, and we won't quit. That's messed up. I was sitting beside a guy, and he was the head of audit for a firm. And I was like, you didn't really want, that was not your dream as a child. Going back to when I piss off the 56-year-old CEO, I go back, your dream as a child was not to be an auditor. And he's like, yeah, that's true. But Shane, I have financial obligations. I need my finances. And I'm like, yeah, well, you're the head of audit. You've been head of audit for the last 10 years. You have savings. You don't need to work. You've been making 150,000 dirhams base plus bonus for the last how many years? In reality, what do we need as humans? 2 chapatis and dal a day. You actually would be fine. If you're like me, obviously, where I overeat, I overconsume everything. You don't need 99% of the stuff you have. So in fact, you could quit now and start doing what you love right now. And finance is not the reason why. And you just watch his face, just stop. He's looking at me, he's calculating because he's an accountant. He's like, damn it, he's right. I could do that. And that's what you need to do. So the answer is inside you. And that's how you go to this question. What should you do? Really understand what's your value. What can you do better than anyone else? And it's not difficult to find a job. Okay, this question, thank you for this question. Thank you for at least somebody, first of all, showing your video and being participative. It's really nice. I switched this format because I was doing a webinar and I can't see anyone. And I'm like, I want to help people. I don't want to sit there and talk to myself, although it seems like I enjoy talking to myself because I've been talking to myself for so long here. But back to the question, I just wanted to say thanks, Sophie. Thanks for asking a question. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing your video. I appreciate it. It's difficult to find a job. It's always difficult. Your career is always difficult because it's like climbing a mountain. And if I want to move laterally on the mountain, it's easy. So if I want to move sideways, it's easy. But if the second I want to go up the mountain, it's very difficult because it takes every muscle in my body. I climbed a tree last night with my 2-year-old son, and like, swear to God, you could feel how old I am. Like I was struggling, trying to go up because going up is hard. So when you're getting a job, you're going up. When you're getting a promotion, you're getting up. Whatever it is, it's going to be difficult. That's point one. So just settle in for that and realize it's going to be tough. Number two, where are you looking for the job? Now, the thing is that's mind-blowing. These are real statistics. 89% of people work in a company of less than 500 people. The job ads are mostly with companies that have more than 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 people. So when you go into ad job campaigns, it's the HSBCs, it's the Googles, it's the Amazons, Amazon was hiring 100,000 people, whatever. But this really represents the online job market represents, 15 or 20% of the actual job market. This is a fact. Now, the other interesting piece is headhunters represent 5%. So between the online jobs and the headhunters, you're only touching 30, 40% max of the job market. Here's another really interesting fact. 64% of the job growth that's going to occur over the next 12 months is going to occur in companies with less than 20 people. I'll say it again, 64% of the job growth that's going to occur in the global economy over the next 12 months is going to occur with companies with less than 20 people. Now, you will never, almost never, see a job ad from a company with less than 20 people. How do they hire? They hire within their network. Now, some people will say, well, if I'm a CFO or I'm a head of HR or for some of this more senior positions, a company with less than 20 people may not be a fit. Of course, you can come. Maybe you get equity, you get a profit share, you get ghost shares, you join. Then you have to look at what's the smallest company size that would take your profession. That's where you're going to see the job growth. Now, the other thing is that with these smaller companies, you have to physically go and meet the people because you are going to be, oh, sorry, I have 2 people stuck in the waiting room here. You're never late for this meeting, by the way. You're always welcome, no matter what time you come. So this thing is that with the smaller companies, you're dealing with an owner, and this is someone who can say you're hired. That's the other very interesting thing, is that a lot of times we're going through our job search and we're finding it difficult because we're not going to where the highest job growth is. So that's one. It's like going to the gym, and because I don't know how to train properly, I'm doing exercises that are not actually burning fat. And then I get a personal trainer and I lose 6 kgs in a month because I'm doing the right exercises. So what's happening is we're going into the job search market. We're not looking in the most fruitful places. It's like a fisherman, an experienced fisherman. He goes in, he knows where the fish are, he grabs the fish. I go in, I spend all day, I won't catch a fish. Thank God I don't actually want to rip a fish by its mouth and clobber it to death. I don't find that fun. But either way, I won't have to worry about it because I can't catch a fish to save my life. That's literally true. So, and it's the same thing with the job search, is that we're looking in places where the jobs aren't. So you go to these smaller companies, you take an Excel, you list the smaller companies, and you go. Now, here's the other catch. This is the other catch. Do not tell the person that you're looking for a job. People are like, Shane, this doesn't make any sense. You know, how do I do this without looking for a job? So if I call up another person from a search firm and I say, hey, Joanne, how are you? I'm looking for a job. Can I come and see you? I have a coffee to talk about my career. Joanne says, no, thank you very much. Bye-bye, right? I don't have time to talk to Shane about his career. But if I call Joanne up and be like, hey, Joanne, how's it going? I'd love to show you our latest social media campaigns and how we're able to drive, $400,000 net new business every 60 days through using LinkedIn, Facebook, and our Instagram. Can I come show you some of the latest strategies we're using? I'd love to share them with you and maybe see what you think and what you're doing. Maybe we can share some ideas. Now, Joanne's going to be like, yeah, Shane, come right now. I'm free. I would love to hear this, and now I'm sharing ideas peer to peer. So what's the solution you're providing? What's the value you're providing? Go and find the smaller companies and you'd be like, hey, Jennifer, I love what you're doing. I saw that, you have this kind of custom made coffee cup business. I love your coffee cups. I just bought one. It's this mint greenish color. It's amazing. Can I come see you? Actually, I've been working in marketing for the last 10 years and I had like 3 amazing ideas of how you could sell more coffee cups or how I could do some branding work for you. Can I just show it to you? Can I just show you the idea? You're going to love it. Now, Jennifer's like, oh, you're going to be flattered because as a small business person, nobody calls you up and says, hey, I really love your business because it's so small. It's 1 or 2 of your, you do have a couple clients who will like you. That's why you stay in business. But in general, that call doesn't usually happen. So the business owner is going to be flattered. They're going to say, oh yeah, great. And you bought my cup, come on in, let's have a chat. And then you're like, hey, here's where, this is what what we could be doing with your brand. Here's a couple ideas. Here's 3 ideas that cost no money that could increase your brand awareness today that we could do immediately. Can I show them to you? Any business owner is going to be like, yeah. Or, hey, hey, I'm in HR. I know that you're too small for an HR person. Here's 3 ideas that you could do to increase engagement, to run your comp and band, to run your performance management. Hey, can I show you a template that I use for small companies with 20 people on how they run performance management every quarter? It increased revenue by 30% within 12 months in all the companies that use this program. Can I show it to you? Now, that's a lot different than calling up and saying, hey, can I talk to you about my career? Because you're trying to give. And a lot of the candidates that I work with, they're so scared to give. They're like, yeah, Shane, but then you'll have my ideas. And then he's going to, he's going to use them. Look, let me tell you, we could go to my favorite restaurant. You could get the recipe. Okay. Good luck. When you cook it, or at least maybe you're a chef, I don't know. But when I try to cook it, it's not going to come out the same. And secondly, the ideas are worth nothing. The value is in execution. And people won't execute, as we just went through that whole monologue where I talked about value and execution and the polar bear and all that. People don't want to tackle your polar bear. They don't want to execute. Ideas die. Don't take it to the graveyard with you. Share it with you. I could go to another search firm and I could give them ideas for 3 hours about how to make more money. and it still just wouldn't even scratch the surface of all the ideas I have about things I want to do. So I wouldn't care. I actually do this like at least twice a month. It's so beneficial. I call up other owners of businesses that are my competitors, and I share ideas about what I'm doing and what my strategies are, and I get their feedback. And you would be surprised how much people open up. And they'll be like, oh yeah, Shane, yeah, I have the same problem, because now they start telling me information. You're like, wow, I can't believe, you tell me this. But at the end of the day, we're not competitors, we're collaborators. And, the fact that, he's not going to go away, I'm not going to go away. He's still going to, or she's still going to pitch, my next pitch, I'm going to pitch against the competitors tomorrow, next year, and the year after. And we got to live together. So we might as well get along and share those ideas, put them in a PowerPoint. Have you ever gone, I've never seen it. Like, I interview marketing people. Sorry, I'm going overtime, but I have to share this. I have to share this story. It blows my mind. So we're interviewing chief marketing officers, and, we've placed a couple of them, and this is just recently. And so you start the meeting, and it's like, I'm not trying to interview the person. I'm trying to be friendly. Like, I'm trying to build rapport. I'm trying to, like, hey, let's have a fun time together. We have to spend an hour together. At least let's enjoy each other's company. And so I'm like, well, what's your favorite advertising campaign of your life? Like, what? And they're stumped, and, I'm not in advertising, but you have the Always campaign, you have the Naturally Orangina campaign, you have, the famous Budweiser, what's that? You have some really, it's like such a fun topic. It's such a fun topic. And they're like, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, man, why are you in marketing if you don't have a favorite campaign? Or, and then it's like, well, what's your most exciting consumer insight? So here's a really interesting consumer insight. People that are buying my ownmycareer.com program are highly successful people. And all of them, almost all my customers, like at least, okay, not all, but 70% of my customers have jobs and they want a better job. And so when we started, we were like making advertisement, like, don't go homeless, and like, you need to, and it's not people who don't have jobs. Like, my friends who actually got fired, and I'm like, hey, I have a free webinar. Go on ownmycareer.com. You have a free webinar. We have a free CV template that you can download. We have a free how to negotiate your salary template you can download for free. You can log in for this twice a week for free. And they're like, Shane, that's not what I was expecting from you. I thought you could introduce me to someone. I don't have time to watch your webinar. And I'm like, okay. And then I have a candidate. The guy's making 300,000 dirhams a month. This is a true story. Guy's making 300,000 dirhams a month. And he shows up on my Zoom call. And I'm like, call him afterwards. And I'm like, why are you taking my course? You make 300,000 dirhams, because he's a candidate. I know how much he makes. I've known the guy for like 6 years. I'm like, why are you taking my course? He's like, well, Shane, COVID's coming and I want to prepare. I want to be ready just in case. So you see the mind of a top performer. They believe in developing themselves. They see a problem. The solution is developing their capabilities. They want to develop capabilities, and they want knowledge, and they want to develop themselves. So when you look at people who are taking motivation courses, or, when you go in the gym, like, next time you go in the gym, ask yourself how many fat people are there. There's almost no fat people in the gym. All the people, like in my gym, these guys, have you ever seen those guys? They're nuts. They start working out, and then the guy rips his shirt off, and his buddy's got his phone, and he's like, yeah, pump it. And he's like, yeah. And he's like totally ripped. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I go up to the guy and I say, how many gym memberships do you have? He's got 4 gym memberships. I said, how many times, how much do you work out? How much time do you spend? He spends 15 hours a week working out. So here's the consumer insight, is that if you want to sell a gym membership, don't go to someone who's overweight. Go to a guy who's ripped and be like, hey, here's a really new gym. You should try it, because a bodybuilder will have 4 or 5 gym memberships. So you're way more likely to sell a gym membership to somebody who doesn't need to work out, who's totally ripped. So, this is a really long-winded way to say, when you sit down with these marketing people, they have no consumer insight. They're just totally not interested. They're not doing, there's so much there that they could be giving, and they're operating like it's like a Ferrari that's never been out of first gear. So that brings me to the end of the time. If there's any other questions. I feel like I just had like verbal diarrhea for like an hour, but thanks for the question, Sophia. We appreciate it. And Cherian and Elevate 45, who also contributed but didn't share his video or speak to us. Still appreciate his question. Any last question before I go? I'm always sad when it ends. I'm like, I don't want to leave.
There are two questions, Shane. One from Sherian and one from Arshad. I don't know if you have the time for that.
Okay, he said keep it up.
So above Sophia's
One
question.
recruiter told me that's difficult to find a job. We took that one question. How do you become a board member? Oh my God, I'm gonna go crazy on this one. Okay, well, you know what's really interesting about the board members is a lot of people, they go to the director, they go to, what's that place? There's an institute where you can get certified as a board member. And what that certifies you in is in corporate governance. That can help, it doesn't hurt. But what is the real purpose of the board? Now, this is a topic of debate and it's highly opinionated, but my opinion is there's two main purposes. Number one is to set the vision for the company. What's the vision and direction? What are we doing, right? Where are we going? You know, are we growing into China? Are we going to focus and be a local leader in, you know, our country? Are we going to expand into Africa? You know, where are we allocating our main resource? What's the vision? And number two is to maintain profitability, to drive profitability. Now, corporate governance helps because it deals with some of the risk and it's a sustainability factor, but it doesn't really tackle those two items. So if you go and you become a certified board member, it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be a better visionary, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be really profitable. So when we come in and we take on a board assignment, so I'll have a client and say, for example, usually it's a family group and they'll have like, you know, they'll be in automotive, they'll be in real estate, they'll be in banking, they'll be in like 15 different businesses. And the board members are family members. You can't own 15 businesses and be an expert in 15 things. It doesn't work that way. So, you know, so the guy will have, maybe he's an expert in one, but the other ones he doesn't know. And now because of disruption and all the challenges, their profitability is under pressure. So what do they ask for? They want a board member. So the guy owns, you know, he owns 20 hotels, but his main business is financial services. So he doesn't really know the hotel business. So he wants a board member from JW Marriott or Four Seasons or Accor, somebody who can come on and say, you know, this is how you increase your food and beverage revenue in your hotel, or this is how you grow hotels in Africa, or this is how we're going to drive profitability in these particular areas. Where's the problem area? And this is how we're going to unlock profitability in that area. That's where the real board work is. So when you get brought on, and I'll just touch on one other thing. This is really sexist, but so I was on a radio with a lady. It's on the net, wherever the recording is. And she brings up this study from McKinsey that says diversity at boards drives profitability. So let's take Aramco, for example. Because a lot of people start, you know, what's really driving the board selection. So Aramco is one of the most profitable companies in the world. When you look, they've IPO'd. When you look at the board, there's like 3-4 women on the board. Now, before they IPO'd, how many women were on the board? Everybody knows the answer to that question. So they IPO'd. How much did the women influence the profitability of Aramco? Aramco put women on the board, not because of profitability. Aramco put women on the board because politically they need to be, you know, with the times, and we need diversity. And it's a political thing. When you go in and you start opening up a refinery in another country, it's a political place. So when a company is, you know, over $100 billion, it's a political animal. So the board appointments are going to be very political. They're going to be to do with, you know, what the paradigm of thought of the time is. Some boards will put, you know, Hollywood actors on their board because they want access to media or they want access to whatever. So it depends on what is the development level of the company. Some women, for example, become certified board members and they get a lot of these very nice board placements. Another person may become an Islamic scholar and they get very many Sharia placements. Another person can be a specialist, a retired CEO, and he's a specialist in doing electric doing transformers, and he gets board placements helping people build electricity infrastructure through Africa. You really have to look at what's the value proposition, what's the development stage of the company, and why are they hiring that board member? Most of the board positions in the Middle East are not, first of all, I don't know how much of this I should be saying or not saying, but the companies are family-run companies. They don't want people looking at their P&Ls and what their problems are. It's private. And so you will get advisory board positions, which don't get the full gamut to see really what's under the hood, and they'll be looking at one specific problem. And those are specialists. So that's how I think you would be. So for example, myself, I could position myself to be head of, the HR committee at the board. That's would be my specialization. And my main goal will be to, drive down your salary cost on your P&L to show you how to get better talent for less money and help you retain your top performers and drive peak performance. Someone who had that problem in their company, they could take me as a board member. So that's really what it is. It's specialization, and tie the board into how it makes money. And be careful. The point of my story is be careful when you go and you get certified as a board member, you will realize there's very little discussion around profitability. In fact, when you go to one of these board conferences, you realize there's not really any big chairman there because they're not talking about profitability. So that's what we want to be at. Is that the last question or?
Yes, I think we've ran out of time. It's already 1:12.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'm really sad to go. Okay, so next Monday it's at 12 o'clock. If you guys can share the link, it'd be great to spread it because it's free and it's public, and we want to help as many people as we can. And also, if you go on the website and you click on the free webinar, there's a free webinar, and in the webinar you get a free CV template and you get the free salary negotiation sheet, which is really awesome because as I just showed you, I use that in everything. And it will apply. You'll use it in everything you do. Once you start to improve your negotiation skills, it saves you money everywhere. It makes you money everywhere. So that one sheet is a must-have. I mean, I like having it anyway. So that's it. I have to go. My wife's calling me, and thank you so much. I'm so sad to go, but we're going to end the live broadcast. This was broadcast live, right? It says live.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think there was one last question, wasn't there?
Oh, sure, Sophia. One last question.
But not from me, but from somebody else. Wasn't there? Somebody sent a question. Hold on, one question from Hassan.
What does it say, Hassan? Where? I don't see a question. Angelo, do you see a question?
I'll unmute so you can hear me.
Yeah, there you go.
Hear me?
Okay.
Turn your video on too.
Oh, yeah, I'm not in state.
Why?
Makeup on.
All right.
So millennial, they just want to send you like messages. You know, human input.
My question is that if you do something, thanks for your insight, Shane. And by the way, I'm about 50 years old.
You're what?
I'm about 50.
Okay.
So my
millennial.
wait, what do you say?
I said, so don't act like a millennial then, It's like we're trying to hire these millennials for marketing, and it's like, come to my office and meet me, and they're like, well, we can't do that. You just send me an email. Anyway, sorry, I'm cutting you off. Hassan, please go ahead, ask me a question. I'm so thankful for your question.
If there's something that you do which is volunteering and free, and it's really your passion, but I don't know how to convert it, because obviously I have to provide bread and butter for my children. Is there a way to convert what you do that's free and volunteering, that's your passion, into something that you can actually do full time and don't have to worry about your bread and butter?
Yeah, so I really profess this, that your profession and your charity work should be locked together. So like Doctors Without Borders, you'll have like a high level, say, New York plastic surgeon. He'll go and spend 1 month with Doctors Without Borders doing surgery training, doing whatever, and that's where you're really maximizing your value. I practice what I preach. So I'm doing charity work right now. This is free. I'm not getting paid for this, but I'm trying to contribute back to our society. So when we say, look, as a company, we're a triple bottom line company, what should our charity work would be? Well, I provide a lot more value by doing a free career session for my community than, you know, if I go and try to volunteer with the anorexic ladies at the hospital, for example, or I maybe, you know, I won't be as good with the disabled kids, although we try to do stuff with that. But you can see that another friend of mine who is a nurse, she is so much better at interacting with those kids, and the kids get so much more value out of interacting with her than they do with me because I'm not as natural at it. So, but I'm very natural at giving career advice. So, you know, your profession and your charity work should be locked together. So if you're a real estate developer, well, maybe you should make housing for people who are homeless. Or, you know, if you're an investment banker, this is a true story. One of my investment banking friends, he provided free advice. They created investment banker. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like a group of them, and they would go and advise, you know, countries like Cote d'Ivoire in how do they structure project financing for a dam project or projects that's going to bring water and electricity to, you know, for governments. And, you know, and he had a website with all these cool projects that they had done pro bono. And so, you know, I think that is like the fundamentals of life, because as you grow, it's very important for us to grow spiritually. And there's not really a lot of spiritual growth levers for us. And when you do charity work and you get down on the ground, you know, like me and my team, we went to Ethiopia and we, you know, started trying to, you know, help the orphanages there. And, you know, like when you're on the ground and you get your hands dirty, it just changes you and it helps you grow spiritually. And that makes you a better leader, makes you a better professional, makes you a better human being. So I'm really big on that, you know, on being a triple bottom line. And I think companies lose a big opportunity to engage with their teams when they don't have a triple bottom line. I think that's probably part of that's probably why 80% of people give me their CV within 48 hours, because there's no meaning. There's no like, what are we doing? And I talked to one of my friends who runs a real estate company, and I'm like, look, your carrot is only going to work so much. Instead of screaming at them and telling them, hey, you're going to get a double bonus if you sell this house, why not bring in 3 families who, because you guys have a lower price point, you were their first home. And, you know, listen to that, you know, South Asian wife who, you know, getting out of the in-laws house, what did that mean to her? What did it mean to that family to have their first home? You know, and that huge service that you're giving, or, you know, the banker and the ninja loan, you know, offering, you know, people with unsecured debt. What does that mean to them? You know, what's that really, you know, and the people just looking at me like, no, I think I'll shout at them and whip the stapler and fire them if they don't sell, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, that's your choice. Yeah, I think you should fully integrate it. You know, I mean, my answer is not only should you, of course, use your profession to impact on charity work, I think it should be completely infused. And I think that's the future. You'll see that more with companies. Like you look at Nestle, for example. Nestle does, like, they sell baby's milk, and then they go and they do programs for single moms in, you know, fringe economies, in low income households. They have so many charity programs that, you know, people love working at that company. You know, they enjoy working for a brand that does good. Is that I think that's definitely the last question. I'm going to have to go now because I have,
Okay.
but
Thanks a lot. Great stuff.
Yeah,
can you
thanks
guys
very
do me a
much.
favor? Can you spread the link and connect with me on the WhatsApp? If you go on to here, maybe I can just share my screen quickly. Bad things always happen when I share my screen, but let's just see here. So here's our website. So here's the free webinar that you can register for. This is the live chat. That's Angelo talking to me. So if you go on our live chat, you will actually talk to us. And then if you scroll down here to the WhatsApp group, so you can connect with us on WhatsApp. And when you connect on the WhatsApp, this is literally, let me just show you. It goes directly to my personal mobile number. It goes to my personal.
New visitor.
So this is, so you see this, it says OMC job seekers. So that is so you go directly to my mobile. So this is not there's no robots. as you could hear, you can see it's like you're dealing directly with us. Anyway, so that was the last thing. So join on the WhatsApp, and if you can help spread the word, it'll be awesome.
Yes, we'll do.
Okay, bye for
Okay,
now.
right.
thank you very much, Shane. It was great. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.